so in general, it's debated whether weed is addictive at all. There's people who say that weed is not addictive. And I could see why they say that because it doesn't have the same physical addictive tendencies that opiates or other things do. So it's hard to really quantify how addictive it is because the withdrawal symptoms are basically what? You're cranky, you have less of an appetite. Sounds like normal life. So it's not an extreme difference when you're quitting. But sometimes when you're able to quit easily, we can actually convince ourselves that, oh, okay, well, I was able to quit then and I didn't smoke then and I didn't smoke then. So then we're able to convince ourselves actually that we can quit whenever we want. And that's one thing that actually gets us into a little bit of a dangerous place. And me specifically, and I know for people who are regular weed smokers probably feel the same way. Because if you can stop for a couple weeks, then you're kind of like, well, I guess I don't have any type of problem. It was fine when I stopped. So now I know that I can casually smoke and I can stop whenever I want. And, I lived that way for a very long time. And I'm not saying there's anything bad about weed. If you use it in your life, it is totally up to you. But if someone has come across this video later that is not live and is not usually here for the lives, they probably are looking to quit. So, one of the things that has been a big revelation for me, and you guys know that I've gone through so much shadow work in the last couple months. And going through all of that shadow work, I think has allowed me to now realize that, like, I don't need the weed and I never actually did. And so sometimes we smoke because it relieves stress or helps us be more comfortable in social situations, or it helps us, gets us back to normal. We feel a little bit in the deficit, a little down, and then smoking that weed brings us back to normal. And in those situations, for all these years, I thought that it was helping me. I really did believe that it was helping me for 20 something years. And now I can look and say, like, oh my God, it was also contributing to the stress. Hold on. I'm dog sitting right now. Do you want to come up? Then, okay. If you're going to run, come on, honey. Come up. Okay. So, in that case, I was convincing myself, like many other people who smoke weed, that it actually is helping with stress, it's helping with my anxiety, it's helping with this, it's helping with depression, it's helping whatever you might feel that it's helping with. Some people say, "Oh, I don't have an appetite without it," or any of these things. And what I've come to realize, there's a book called, and the book is actually not about quitting weed. Oh, thank you. Do you like my earrings? They're from my friend's place in Long Island called Tori, and she does ear piercings. It's in Port Washington. She sent them to me. They're so gorge. And the reason you should get your ears professionally pierced is because when I was putting this in, I had so much trouble finding the back because as a teenager, I pierced my own ears. And literally, that's why you should go and get yourself pierced by a professional because for the rest of your life, you'll have trouble finding the back of your ear hole. So, with that said, a lot of time, oh, I was telling you about the book. So, there's this book by Alan Carr. It's called How to Quit Smoking the Easy Way or something like that. And they also have like How to Quit Drinking the Easy Way. And so, with that, I was like, "Oh, cool. The easy way, sign me up. I wanna know everything that's in this book." And so I'm gonna share some of what's in the book with you. And it says these things that you believe that smoking is helping you with. And that book is about smoking cigarettes, but so much of the same applies for any type of habit, which is why I said if you're not a smoker or anything like that, there might be something else in your life that you're trying to get rid of. And the thing that we believe that it's helping us with is oftentimes one, our number one excuse for not quitting, but also a lot of times, if you can be really reflective, it's contributing to it. So for so long, I really thought that the weed was helping me stay stable or making me stay um without stress or without any type of anxiety or anything like that. And then I realized that, like, actually the weed is contributing to the stress because making every situation more difficult. And you've heard you heard of THC psychosis, but never experienced it. I mean, I don't know how common that is. I mean, I smoked for a long time. I smoked a lot. Everybody I know smoked a lot, and I really was don't n never saw anyone experience that. I have seen people experience psychosis from things like Adderall or something like that, but, I have never seen it with THC. But, it actually, adds to the stress. So sometimes, we're smoking to take that little edge off. However, it's also giving us that extra obstacle to overcome. And that's another difference. Weed is the only substance that it's kind of encouraged and okay to smoke all day whenever. You know, Even people who are big drinkers, they know that, you're not supposed to really drink in the daytime, or like, ooh, day drinking is an occasion. And all of the other things, it's pretty common to know that, like, these are used in specific settings. This is used, and if you're using it outside of that, then you wanna, like, kinda keep it under the low, but weed is the only one that is pretty acceptable to smoke whenever, wherever, and I live in California, so it's really, like, whenever, wherever, right? And so now I can finally see, and this is really after the shadow work, and I know that the weed was helping me that whole time with those things that I was not ready to face. And now that I've faced a lot of those demons, so to speak, and wounds and trauma and things like that, and what made me into me, the weed has less of a place right now. But here is some tools and things if you are trying to quit anything in your life, but this is geared towards weed, but this will work for anything. So, the first thing is to identify the triggers. It's so, so important to identify your triggers. And so, say for me, did you just start this live? I just started about 10 minutes ago. And so, weed is good in retirement. So, the number one thing is identifying the triggers, because now emotional stress is a very easy trigger for us to be like, "Oh, yeah, when I'm stressed, I wanna smoke." But when we really start to think about our triggers, like, say, for example, for me, um, times of day. Times of day could be a trigger. Maybe if you're used to smoking in the morning, the morning coming feels triggering. Or if you're someone who is used to smoking before bed, as you're getting closer to that time of the night, that's the trigger. Also, weed, addictions in general, but weed, it goes with a lot of things. So, there's other triggers, like, say, "Oh, I'm gonna sit down and watch TV." That could be a trigger for some people if you're someone who usually likes to smoke and veg out and watch TV. And then for me, a big one is drinking coffee. For me, this diabolical relationship between weed and coffee has been going on a very long time. And then, you get that little bit of the up from the coffee, and then you're like, ooh, let's come back down. And just getting that little sip of caffeine is a trigger for me. So the first thing to do is to really identify those triggers for you. So I know for me, weed is a major trigger, more than my other triggers. So right now, I'm taking a break from coffee. I'm going to get so this is like that's what we have to do. You have to identify the trigger. And I'm teaching this to myself as well. This has been my thing that I've been really, like, fixating on for the last couple weeks, because I want to take in all of this different information that I can, because I'm someone that works from more of, like, I like to have the knowledge. So if there's an emotional trigger, I can override it if I have a lot of knowledge. But if I don't have enough knowledge, if all I have about weed is, I should stop and probably not the best for me. And I guess it's kind of addictive. That's not really enough information for me to overcome those emotional triggers. So for me, I had to dig into all the information. And this is the best stuff of what I've come across. So there's a lot of different triggers. Also, certain people could be triggers. Talking to certain people for good or bad reasons. Maybe this is a friend that you love to smoke with, or maybe this is someone who triggers you in a negative way. Sometimes, a person, a family member or something might be like, oh gosh, I need to go smoke to bring myself back down. Or, oh, look, it's my friend. We always smoke together. We're hanging out. Now, if you're someone who is a full time smoker, like I was, then your own home is the trigger. Your own bed, your own couch, your own everything. So that's why it's really important to be able to identify those big triggers that get you. Like for me, after I get off sometimes on the phone or sometimes after I get off a phone call, I like to have a little puff. So those are things that I've had to be mindful of when I'm talking on the phone and then I start to get that little feeling of like, oh, I'm going to smoke after this, or oh, after I get home, I'm going to smoke. That I'm like, oh, okay, these are the triggers. Okay, now I'm identifying it. So, another thing that is important when you're trying to quit, which actually is probably the first place to start before your triggers, is to come up with a list of the reasons why. And that could be an ongoing list because